Hey everyone, welcome back to Casey3D Sparks. Today we're going to be creating a decorative stone arch to put at the entrance of some of these rooms. I thought it could be much nicer than just kind of a open doorway. So I want to go ahead and do that. So for us to start, it will be good if you already have some of these walls created, because I am basically just going to grab one of these that already has just one wall and the floor piece attached, Shift D, and we're just going to move that to an empty layer and work on it there. Now, we're actually not going to use any of this actual stone wall. We're just going to basically use the framework for the 4 square tile with the connection of the wall, so that way we can make sure it's exactly the same size and it's printable. So first thing, I need to make sure it's in the center because we're going to use some mirror modifiers and stuff like that. So first we'll go over here to set origin to 3D cursor, and then geometry to origin to get that started. Now we're going to tab into edit mode, and if you're using this as an imported STL, you'll want to untriangulate this. Now it's not perfect, but as long as you have everything selected, you can just do Alt J, and that will get rid of most of your extra edges for you. Like I said, it's not perfect, but will be fine from here. It gets rid of a lot of that extra stuff. Now I'm going to deselect everything. I'm going to go into top view, and from there, in object mode, I'm going to rotate 90 degrees and just hit enter to have that with the wall facing the front. Now going into side view, we'll tab into edit mode, Z for wireframe view, and border select all of these vertices. Just go ahead and hit X and delete those, so we have our framework here. Now I'm going to go ahead and select these leftover vertices and push them so they are back in line, just as close as you can. And we'll want to do that to the other side as well to straighten out our edge. Push those up just like that until it's nice and flat again. Okay, so for our arch, we are just going to be using basically this side part to extrude up. So we need this part to be filled back in. So I'm just going to go into top view again and face these off. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4, hit F for face, and just do that almost all the way across, just leaving our hollow spaces for the archway to be extruded out of. And the other thing is, I don't want this to be angled, so we'll just go into wireframe view again and pull this to match just like that, so we have our perfect rectangle. Now let's keep continuing. Face. But you want to make sure you get the proper vertices, because if you grab one that's down below, it doesn't know the difference. It doesn't know what you're trying to do. So just undo that, unselect it, and try again. 2, 3, 4. Oops. And we'll leave this open, but again, this was at an angle, so we'll grab this vertice and pull that over so we're at a straight edge. Okay, so the other thing I want to do is I only want to have to model one of these. So what we're going to do is go ahead and grab this loop here. So grab this outliner, and we're just going to go ahead, hit front or side view, doesn't matter, E to extrude, and just pull that up a bit. That way it's kind of like our framework. From there, go ahead, grab this ring again. So once that whole section is selected, we will hit P and select selection. You'll notice you can't see or select the vertices anymore. So if you tab out of edit mode, these are 2 different objects. Perfect. Now the reason we want it like that is for when we do the mirror modifier, we don't want it to mirror the actual floor pieces itself. We just want to do the actual archway. Now you could certainly model it this way, but I also want the mirror to be on this half as well. So I'm going to do Control R and Control R, left click, right click, so that way we get this to be cut in half. So go into sign view, A to deselect, B for border select, and get those vertices, X to delete them. And now we can select Y, but it's in the wrong position because it's going to be on the exact same distance away from the X. So we'll go ahead, apply clipping, and we'll need to scooch this over. So we'll just select everything. I'm gonna go into top view because you can still see it, or if it's easier for you, you could do side view. And we're gonna slide this until they meet. I'm gonna scooch in right there. Awesome. Now I'm going to tab out of edit mode, select our floor piece, and again, this one's optional, but I'm going to move this over so we can look at it at the same time. But if you don't want to see it, of course you could hide it, whatever you prefer. But for me, I'm just gonna slide it over so we can still see it. And I'm gonna rename this to Arch. So I'm keeping the first part of the name, just changing the second half. Okay, now real quick before we get into the arch, I'm just gonna tab back into here as well. And I'm going to select all of these faces. And I kind of want it to be almost a step up. So we're just gonna hit E to extrude. I'm gonna size that in. And you'll notice it sizes in along the X a lot faster first. So just size that in until you get the X, and then S and Y. Be about there. And again, you don't have to do this. I thought it just might look a little bit more decorative if we have this. And then I'm gonna do Control B to bevel that step a little bit. Awesome. That way it just doesn't have this dramatic dip down for our archway. All right, let's go ahead and select our arches and go into edit mode. I'm gonna switch back to vertex select, and we'll want to consider our height. So if we go back real quick, one of these is about 2.12 inches tall. So yeah, just over 2 inches. So if we go back, focus in on our object. Right now, this is our 0.12 for the floor, and our walls are going to be about 2 inches high. Now, what we can do is select both of these and pull them down, so that way it is on the actual grid line, or to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to pull it down so that way the grid line is right on the archway. Tab into edit mode with our arch piece, and we're just going to pull that up. So we'll look at 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 1 inch. 1, 2, 3, 4 is 2 inches. Now that's how tall I want the actual wall part of the arch to be, and then we'll bring up our arch. So if we do E to extrude, we're just going to rotate that so it's flat and grab it and pull that up until it meets on the Z axis. I'm going to do Control R, grab that, pull that out. And we might add a few more loops, but let's see how it looks with a subdivision surface modifier. So add modifier, subdivision surface. I like to put that at 3. And we're going to go ahead and have to sharpen, so Shift E, a few of these edges because I do want them to be crisp. I want this one to be sharpened as well. I need our bottom to be sharp. We'll also want this to be sharpened, and we'll go ahead and sharpen right there. And I also want this to kind of create that separation between the pillar and the arch. So if you want this to be a little bit thicker, go ahead and grab these and pull them up to thicken that up to keep it a little bit more of a consistent size throughout the arch. So sometimes it, doesn't always translate well, so you want to make sure you grab those vertices and pull them up. to keep it consistent. And we're gonna start adding some decoration. So I wanna do Control R, and we'll just add this loop into here, bring it up to about there. We need it somewhat thick, so if we do Control R, add it in the center as well. Oh, and let me sharpen this. So Alt right click this again, and we're gonna size that out to create an edge like that. But you'll notice that again, it sizes along the X a little bit further, so we're gonna pull that along the Y. Now, one thing we'll have to change is this is right below our 2-inch grid line, so we're gonna need to actually pull this up. So if we do A, just deselect everything, grab all of this, and we're gonna pull that above, maybe a little bit further than our 2-inch line, to make sure that it doesn't conflict with our walls that are going to be side by side with this arch. Now, of course, if you don't want to have this much taller than your walls, you can go ahead, bring everything down, that kind of thing, make sure it's flat. But I want my arches to be pretty dramatic, so I'm just gonna pull it above our 2-inch walls, make sure it works out. So if you want to just be totally certain, you can always go back, get out of wireframe view, just grab another wall, do Shift D, move that to the layer that we're working in, and I'm gonna go ahead and rotate that 90 degrees again, pull it back, and next to it, right there. So you can see, oh, we might want to pull this up just a little bit more. So we pull that up to right about there. When it prints out, that should be plenty of space to give that to come out over our stone walls. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and hide that because we don't need that anymore now that we've verified our size. And we're gonna start adding in some of the pillar decor. So I'm gonna scroll in, and we already have one loop here, which is nice. We can go ahead and utilize that. So I'm going to grab those 2 vertices, and I'm actually gonna pull them over, so maybe about there. This part does not need to be precise. This is kind of just however you want it to be. So you'll see in a second what we're gonna do exactly. I'm gonna pull this one over just like that. Do Control R, put that right about here. Control R, scroll up, so we have 2 in there. And we'll also need a Control R. We need a loop in the middle of that, and we need a loop in the middle of this. So I know that's a lot of loops, and you're probably confused as why we're adding them all right now, but you'll see in just a second. We need another one right here though. First, we're gonna place that a little bit above our floor piece, and we're gonna do Control R and place that a little bit down from our piece here. And we're just gonna go ahead and do Shift E on both of those because we're going to want them to be sharpened. So we'll start with this one here. So grab, and actually it would be easier if we just go ahead and go to Edge Select, grab this edge right here. I'm gonna go into Top View and then Wireframe View and zoom in a little bit. And I'm probably gonna bring this edge to maybe the 2nd or 3rd line here. Let's bring that back. Probably about there will be good. And we want to go ahead and sharpen these 2 so we get a nice indent there. And with these 2, we're going to do the opposite. So I'm going to go into Top View and pull them out rather than in. So you can either bring it out all the way to this, or you could bring it here. I'm kind of thinking bringing it about right there. And again, we'll need to sharpen this edge and this edge. So do Shift E to get that nice and flat. And of course you could add more of these, or you could make them larger. I'm thinking about making this a little larger, honestly, for our bigger one, just like that, and having these 2 a little bit smaller. I'm happy with the look of that. However, You'll want to make sure that everything is all set down here as well, which I forgot. I was going to add another loop down here actually. So typically before you do that, you'll want a loop here as well to help with the waviness on this part, but I can still add that in even though I forgot. So if we go to the side view and then just kind of zoom in on this front part here, I'm going to go into wireframe view again and switch back to vertex select. Grab these vertices here and pull them back. And we'll also want to do Shift E and just sharpen that. Perfect. And we also need to make sure we don't forget about this vertice here and pull that forward. And to make sure everything is nice and smooth, of course, you can grab all of them and do S by 0 to make them completely flat. You'll notice that there's a little bit of waviness here, so we could bring this forward if we want. So that's looking pretty good, but now I want to go ahead and focus on the actual arch itself. We're going to go ahead, I'm going to hop into front view, and we actually want this to be kind of indented, and then we can add in some carvings and things like that onto there. Now, if you remember, for our altar, we have some skulls on there, so I thought it'd be nice to kind of replicate that skull onto our archways to bring out the skulls somewhere else in our dungeon, and maybe later on we can pop them in some other furniture pieces as well. So when we consider our arch, first thing I want to do is tab into edit mode, and I want to do face select, and we're gonna grab probably these 5 faces as well as these 5. So we're leaving those 2 and these ones untouched. Just go ahead and do E to extrude. I'm going to go into top view and I'm going to pull them back to this dot there. I'm just going to go ahead and do Shift E and sharpen that. And we'll also want to go ahead, switch back to vertex, sharpen this whole thing here to pull that up. And if you wanted, you could certainly sharpen this as well, which I don't want to. We're gonna fix that a different way, but for now, let's grab these 2 vertices and these 2 vertices. Sharpen that up. And now we can fix this section, which you can see that it's just bringing this up way too far with our sharpen. So we'll go ahead, grab these 2 vertices and do Shift E and just unsharpen that because we don't need that sharpened. We honestly don't need any of this sharpened. So I'm just gonna undo that to help out. It was just easier to sharpen everything at the same time. And then once we unsharpen it, that fixes our arch. If you want to change the thickness of either of those 2, I would recommend doing that now. But I'm pretty happy with the thickness of these 2. I do want to go ahead and do a Control R, and we're going to slide that up to be about here. And I'm just going to utilize the other vertices that we have here. So if we pull these up, pull this in, and we can pull this up and over just like that, and maybe even pull this down to be shaped kind of like that. And what I want to do from there is go ahead, grab all those vertices right in here, or you could certainly switch to face select and grab those 3 faces, do E to extrude. I'm going to go into side view and we're going to pull that out. Now you'll notice that this part is a little too far, so we're going to go ahead, pull that back just like that so we can start working with this, but it actually is unnecessary, so we can certainly go X and dissolve edges, and that will take care of that extra edge for us. I'm going to go ahead and sharpen around the shape that we just created. And we'll want to sharpen here as well. So we kind of have this Oh, I want to sharpen down here. Make sure all of that is sharp. And if you wanted, you could certainly sharpen this as well, or now that you see how it looks, we can grab them, and I want to make it more like that and pull this out. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that shape. I might make it a little bit larger though. So if we do Z for wireframe, B for border select, and I'm going to grab a few more vertices than I need, so that way we can pull them down without interfering with any of this. So that should work nice. Make sure there's no discoloring anywhere with any of the sharpening. But we want it to be pretty dramatic, so I'm going to go ahead and deselect that as well and pull it down some more, and you'll notice that it starts to overlap here, so you'll definitely want to bring this and probably this too down to make sure we don't get any overlapping. That's very important. So I'm going to go ahead and tab out of edit mode. I'm going to go to File, Import STL, and navigate to where my file is. So just give me 1 second. So if you want, I'll link this from Thingiverse again if you wanted to utilize this low poly skull. But for now, I'm just going to size that way down once we get it imported because it's a very large skull. I'm just going to grab that, and we might even need to chop this up a little bit. So I'm going to rotate it because we want the face to be a little bit more like this angle, and we still need it smaller. So all I'm doing right now is trying to line it up in that shape that we created. So to make it a little bit easier, I'm just going to hide our subdivision surface modifier, so all we need to focus on is this shape right here. So I'm going to select our skull and size that down again, pull that up, and now we can actually size it up a little bit more. I still want to leave a little bit of spacing in between the skull and the shape itself. I don't want it to be overhanging. Of course, if you want to, go for it, but I want mine to fit nice and neat in here. So it is centered and everything. It looks pretty good. Now, I want to make sure it's not going too far. So what we can do is also, if you want it out a little bit further, maybe like that, that might look nice. Yeah. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna leave it for now before I attach it, so that way we can focus on our other decorations and also unhide our subdivision surface to make sure it still fits inside our shape, which it does, just in case, you know, it changed anything. But we had most of our stuff sharpened, so I wasn't too concerned, but it's always good to double check. So moving forward, I do want a couple more skulls on here as well. I just want to have another one right here and right here approximately, but they're going to be a little bit smaller than our main one here. So what I'll do is just do Shift D. I'm going to grab that, approximately place it where I want it, so maybe about here, and get it to be the size I want first. So probably about this size, which is pretty small, so I'm a little hesitant to make it that tiny, so hopefully it still shows up with my print. But I'm going to go ahead and do Shift D so I have the same exact size, and just grab that to bring it down right about here. And once we get this side all set up, we'll go ahead and put it on the other side as well as the back. But for now, we're just gonna focus on this one corner. Now to separate them, I kind of want to do something in between. And my idea was, since we're trying to make some of the connections between some of the models that we've made before, I was thinking it might be nice to do some of the lettering like we did on our seal. So for this, I can link the video in the description below if you're interested, but for this seal we did the dragon speech font from Skyrim to get this. So we'll go ahead and do, I think I did the letter O in between each word. So if we do something like that again, where it just kind of looks like a pause, or you know, whatever you're doing at the time, you can have it meaning different things for your different models. So I'm just going to switch back. focus back in on my model and get our letters set up. So for the skulls, obviously I want them to be attached. I want them to be popping out, but our letters, again, I'm going to make it be cut out. So let's go ahead and do Shift A and text. Now you'll notice you have to go into top view to edit it, which is fine. We'll go ahead and just focus in on it. And we'll go ahead and change the font first, which we'll go ahead. All you have to do for font is locate the tab here and then scroll down to where you see font, go to the regular one, hit file, and you'll have to navigate to your font folder. For me, I did Dovahkiin Dragon Speech, so that will instantly change that for me. So I'm just going to tab into edit mode, which will be typing. So if I do the letter O, and it doesn't matter if you do upper or lowercase, so I'm just going to do that right there and use that shape in between our skulls. So I'm going to tab out of edit mode and do Alt C to do mesh from curve. Tab into edit mode and you'll notice that it changed into our mesh. Select everything. I'm just going to go into side view, do E to extrude, and we'll need to pull it up because you'll notice if we pull it down, it's that darkened shade of gray, which means the normals are facing in. We need the lighter gray so that way we know the normals are facing out. So I'm just going to tab out of edit mode, rotate 90 degrees. You'll notice it's going down. We need it to be up, so we're just going to hit the minus sign after the fact and hit enter so that way it is facing the correct direction. Grab that, and obviously it's a little large right now, so we'll just size that down. Keep sizing it until you're happy and pull that out, which is a little shallow, so I'm going to do S and Y to really thicken that up. And I kind of want it to be, you know, not quite as deep as this because obviously this isn't being cut out either. I'm just kind of using it as a reference for right now. Maybe about that deep. Now if you want it that large, that's cool. I'm going to probably do a little bit smaller like that. Shift D and pull that up just like that. Now this is a little bit random looking, so we need something to kind of pull it together a little bit. So I want to do some different shapes in between as well. So that way it's not as tacky, I guess, right now is kind of how it looks. Now to kind of bring out our shape that we created here, I thought it'd be nice to put some more triangular shapes here as well. So when we want to make those shapes, it would be preferred if we could tab into edit mode and add in a couple more loops. So if we did Control R, scrolled up, get to, or what might be easier actually is to Control R, add a loop right there, so it's right after our O. Control R again, bring that up so it's right above our skull. But if you'll notice, that dramatically changes the shape of our arch. When you add in more loops on a curve like that, it makes it less dramatic. So make sure you pay attention to that. Make sure that's still the shape you want. And personally, I don't like the new shape that it creates. I really like this smoother gradual arch rather than this it's so much, I don't know, it breaks it up. I don't like it. I want to keep this smooth arch. So we could certainly bring these back in and then grab this to try and, you know, make it more smooth again. But instead, I'm just gonna, you know, cheat a little bit and do some more boolean modifiers, which is not the best practice to try and do, but it's, you know, gonna be the easiest to maintain this shape that we want. So to do that, I'm just gonna do Shift A and we'll go ahead and do a cube. Size that way down and focus in on it, tab into edit mode, and we'll go ahead, grab this edge here and pull that up here so we get a triangle, but it's still a quad because we still have our extra edge here. It's still 1, 2, 3, 4, not 3. Okay, so I'm gonna tab out of edit mode and pull this up and kind of start shaping it out how we would want it. Now I want to rotate this Rotate 90 and then hit the minus sign so it's pointed like that. Keep sizing this down. Grab that. Rotate it like that. Pull that. Just like that. Now I want this to be a little bit more dramatic, so I want to go ahead, go into wireframe view, grab our edge here, go into the front view, and pull that out just like that. Now I want this to be coming out again instead of being cut out like our letters. So I'm going to go back into object mode and we're going to pull this out, and I want it to be probably halfway in between the furthest point of our skull and where our arch is, which if we look at that, our arch edge is right here. Maybe not. I think I want it right before. Yeah, that probably works better. And then we'll go and make sure that this whole edge is inside the curve, so that way just this point is coming out. I do like that. If we tab into edit mode and do Control R, you'll notice you can't put one loop across this edge. It's either here or here. So if we put a loop right here, we could actually grab this and make that curve a little bit just with that addition. And then if we added a subdivision surface, which obviously that's way too much right now, but if we sharpen these edges, this might look a little bit better. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit experimental and off track here. Hopefully you guys enjoy this more than just triangles. Why isn't that working? Oh, because that needs to be sharpened, as well as this. Ooh, I do like that more than just a regular triangle. Okay, so we do Shift D, grab that, and put that in between each, and make them the correct. Where did they go? Oh, I didn't hit Shift D. Just like that. Okay, so now that we have this all set up, we can go ahead, and what we'll want to do first is, I'm gonna save this just to be sure, and then I want to go ahead and duplicate our arch just in case we want to go back, make any adjustments to just this section, and we'll have to apply our mirror modifier and our subdivision. Now for the other parts as well, we'll need to apply the subdivision for our triangles, and of course you can duplicate them as well if you're interested, but since they were such basic shapes, I think I'm okay. But these ones don't have any modifiers, so we'll be okay. Now I'm gonna go ahead and select everything, do Control A, rotation and scale, and it's preferred if you do location as well. All right, we're gonna go to the arch, add modifier, boolean, union, and I'm gonna do our triangles first. So let's try that first one, which that's cube 17. Just go ahead and hide that, which it seems like it worked. I'm gonna tab into edit mode. Beautiful. So there's nothing extra on the inside of our mesh, so we can go ahead and continue. I always like to make sure the first one works perfectly first, and then for this one we'll just need 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3 more of those. So cube 16, cube 18, 19, and 20, and it looks like they disappear, but you just can't see it because of the shading. So we'll just hide the rest of those, and they stayed there, and we can go ahead, make sure you apply them in order. Perfect. There's nothing extra on the inside. So we'll continue on with our skulls. And actually, if you want, you could do rotation and scale, apply that again. Boolean, we're gonna do union. Oops. We need 3 of those. We'll go ahead and do our skulls. Apply them all. Make sure there's nothing extra, which that cut off beautifully. So that is nice. And then for our lettering, like I said, I want to do Boolean, but we need to do different. So we need 2 of those, text 2 and text 1. Hide those and you'll see that that cuts out. Make sure you like the depth. I think I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm going to go ahead and apply. Now, the reason I did it that way is so that way now when I tab into edit mode, we can go ahead. I'm going to go top view, deselect, border select right here, do X. We're going to delete those vertices. And we want to go ahead and delete these as well. So we'll go ahead, select them, but if you look at our skull, because what we used was a low poly mesh, oh, and it missed a couple right here anyway, it's not going to work properly. If we delete this, it gets a bunch of holes here. So what we want to do first is just delete all the non-skull stuff. So go ahead, delete all of this stuff here. And then we have to fix the skull just a little bit in order for our mirror modifier to work properly. So we'll just delete these for now. And I missed this one. Okay, so we basically need to cut our face in half. To do that, there's already one vertice at the very top that is nice and perfect, and there's one at the bottom as well. What we can try to do is hit J to join, and it kind of works, but it's a little off center, so we're gonna do SX0 to make it perfectly straight, and then scooch it over to be right in the middle of our Z axis. B for border select, grab this half, do X, delete those vertices. Make sure that doesn't seem like there's anything extra, except for whatever that is. So we'll go ahead and delete that vertice as well. And it looks like there might be some funkiness right here. Oh, yep, this goes over. So we can go ahead and delete these vertices. So just make sure you get all your cleanup done first, or else your mesh will have some extra stuff that you do not want to deal with later. So I'm thinking that looks good. Okay, so add modifier, mirror, make sure clipping is applied. We'll do X and Y. So now you can see that we have all of our detailing on all the sides. So tab out of edit mode, I'm going to do Shift D, so that way just in case again we have a duplicate, apply. Now all we have to do is apply it back to our floor piece, which should be pretty simple. So if we Control J, that will combine that back into one mesh. However, we need this to actually be connected, because right now they're still separate. And the problem is, you'll notice that there's a ton of vertices and loops here compared to the floor itself. Now the good thing is a lot of these guys are unnecessary, so what we can do is I'm gonna do every other one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loops. I'm gonna delete these actually. We're gonna do X and dissolve edge loops because they're actually unnecessary. They're not really helping. And I'm gonna do, and this is totally optional, you don't have to do this, but I want to just to clean up the mesh from the subdivision surface modifier a little bit. X, delete the same ones on the inside. Now the ones on the front we're going to go ahead and leave, and actually delete those. To be back to that. Awesome. Now this is where it'll get a little messy, but you'll understand why. So first, I'm gonna go ahead and do Alt M at center for our main point here. We want Alt M at center for our other main point there. Zoom in to here. Alt M at first for that one, and Alt M at center. Okay, so now that we have our 4 corners established, we can combine everything else essentially with them, which sounds terrible, I know, probably because it is. I'm gonna go ahead and do Control R so we can do Alt M at center. This one, Alt M at first. Alt M at last. So basically you'll just want to do this all the way around. So you'll want to make sure on the other side as well, you still need to do that too. So if we do Alt M at last, Alt M at center, focus in on it, Alt M at center, center, Alt M at first, at last, focus in on this corner, oops, okay, so I'm just going to skip forward and let you guys look at the aftermath of this, and I will see you guys in just a second. Everything is all connected now, and it may not look the prettiest, but basically all I did was add in a couple loops and then grab the last one, Alt M at last, and that will connect everything. Not the prettiest, but it'll work. It'll get the job done the dirty way. So if we move this to our main layer, we can go ahead and size this in. So if we go ahead and let's just line it into this part over here. So if we grab that, just move that out, grab our new archway, just like that, and we'll have to go ahead and move it up just like that, and it is dramatically taller than the walls, but honestly I kind of like it. Of course you guys can size it however you want or make taller walls, that's up to you, but I'm pretty happy with the way that's turning out. I kind of want to put it over here, maybe this one, set it back to match that one. So let's pull this floor tile out, Shift D, and I'm just gonna pull that, go into top view and push that in to where we need that as well, just like that. Awesome. So we have our archways created. So let me know what you guys thought of this tutorial, and if you guys do different iterations of these decorations and things like that, I'd love to see what you guys came up with. So feel free to post the pictures on Twitter or Instagram and tag me. I'd love to see what you guys model and then print out. But anyway, thank you again so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you have any questions or recommendations or just requests, go ahead and post those in the comments below, and I will see you guys next week.